Hi there, Ronnie here, coming at you with a video. I've held off doing a video on this subject because, well, I have never read any of the Harry Potter books. I have seen all the films. Um, some of them I watched on DVD because a friend of mine had them. Some of them I went to the cinema with my daughter because she was a huge Harry Potter fan. I think we went to see 5 and 7 of the 8 movies. I think we went to see Order of the Phoenix and Deathly Hallows Part 1. But all the rest I saw on DVD. So I've seen all the films. Enjoyed them for what they were. Didn't think they were particularly deep or anything. And certainly not a patch on the other big fantasy film that came out at the same time series, which was Lord of the Rings. But there was that I had gotten my daughter all the books. She thoroughly enjoyed them, and she's still very much a Harry Potter fan today. Not of Rowling. We'll get to that in a second. But I couldn't, in all honesty, call myself a Harry Potter fan or in any way an aficionado. So a lot of what I'm going to say is based on watching other channels sort of deconstruct and sort of critique the book series. A couple of years ago was the big announcement, it was last year before, the big announcement that there was going to be a Harry Potter TV series, that the series was going to bring a more faithful adaptation of the books. Why? And I know that sounds sort of weird to say, but why? And I'll explain why I'm saying that. The last of the movies came out just over a decade ago. They're still very much in the minds of people. Various amusement park attractions and so on are very much built on the aesthetics that the movie set. And the movies were considered to be very good adaptations. Like any movie, they were never going to be faithful because there's always stuff you have to take out for time and pacing reasons and so on. And sometimes that means slightly tweaking storylines just to fit in or omitting characters and so on. And that's a bugbear of pretty much any adaptation of any novel. You're always going to get that. But they were widely acknowledged and accepted and embraced as pretty good adaptations of the novels. So why redo them? Why bother to redo them now? I mean, it doesn't make any sense on that part. The movies are still fresh in people's minds. They're still easily available on DVD and Blu-ray, and if they haven't come out on 4K already, they'll be due. Since then, we've had the three Fantastic Beasts movies. Now, I haven't watched any of them. It just you know, the Harry Potter series was fine, but I didn't feel the need to step myself back into that world. And from all intents and purposes, from what I've heard, the first film seemed quite well received, 2 and 3 less so, and there's been diminishing returns in terms of box office. All of them, as far as I know, have turned a profit, but they've been less profitable and less profitable again. Apparently it was meant to be 5 films, but with the underperformance of the third one, it's looking less and less likely that there's going to be a fourth and fifth. I may be wrong on that. Then we get J.K. Rowling's views on trans women especially, but trans people in general. I don't agree with her. Sorry, probably annoy some people. I don't agree with her. I think she says she doesn't have a problem with trans people, but she seems to be almost vehemently and almost lustily enjoying any situation that is causing trans people to be in any way demeaned or diminished. I haven't read of any single positive thing she's had to say about trans people. And to top it all off, recently she's decided that asexual people are open game as well, because there's an asexual day of visibility, which first of all there is a problem with people don't get, in general, there are a lot of people who are ignorant about what asexuality is, and can't understand that sex drive is a sliding scale. There are some people who really don't care if they never have it, really, or just feel no sexual attraction or anything, or real impetus, and there are those whose sex drive is absolutely through the roof, and all points in between. Rowling even claiming that if you're asexual, you couldn't be gay or straight. Wrong. Not feeling attraction is different from not knowing what you would be attracted to if you were. If you're a straight man who's asexual, if you had a sex drive of any description, it's women that you would be interested in. That is where your romantic and emotional desire would be towards. The fact that your sex drive may be nil, it may be very slight, it may be quite specific, but that it's women that would be the thing you would go for. So to say that someone being asexual means that they couldn't be gay or straight is utter nonsense. But what she has done with her comments, whether you agree with Rowling or not, is that she's pretty much split her fan base. And she split it quite spectacularly. I know a lot of people who had a great deal of love for Harry Potter, as a book series, a film series, a franchise, but have gotten rid of all their collections. My daughter, huge Potterhead that she is quite happy now that anything Harry Potter related that I get her is going to be second hand. And the reason it has to be second hand is because Rowling has tweeted that she considers her continued success and all the profits and everything she gets from merchandising and any sale as validation of her views. So because of that, I refuse to give her the money. And some of the actors who were in the Harry Potter films have spoken out against her and then very pro trans community, and some people have expressed their support of Rowling. As you know, human nature, people have differing views. But then we get the announcement of the TV show. And I come back to the question of why. Here's my problems with the announcement. Firstly, as I said, the films were not that long ago and were considered quite successful and seen as enjoyable and acceptable adaptations of the source material. And so much of the merchandise and so much of like amusement park rides and you know, like Harry Wizarding World and things like that are all based on the aesthetic of the movies. What's going to happen when this TV show comes out is are they going to have to, because either they stick with what is, which only underlines the why do it if you're just going to look like the movies, or they go for a different aesthetic, which means all these places that have all this merchandise and have all these wizarding worlds are suddenly having to either change or go out of business. So there's a real problem there. Secondly, and this is in relation, I mean, again, I've seen the films rather than read the books, but they're all basically set out as mysteries to be solved. And as mysteries to be solved, people who have read the books know what the solution to the mystery is. People who have seen the films know what the solution is. There's no mystery here. You know, the revelation about Snape isn't a mystery anymore. Even if you've never watched Harry Potter, it doesn't take more than 5 minutes to Google the history of Snape and find out where his true allegiances lay, ultimately. You know, we all know Gilderoy Lockhart's secret. You know, we all know what's going to happen with the Prisoner of Azkaban and all that. We all know it. You know, Sirius Black. We all know this. There's no mystery anymore. Now, to me, a good mystery film can be watched twice. There can be really entertaining ones where you can watch them more than twice. But good mystery films can be watched twice. One, you're enjoying the mystery and watching the twists and turns and seeing the solution. And then, if you remember that, you can at least watch it again because you can see the little clues that you should have spotted the first time you watched it. So there's that. So who is this for? See, I reckon the people who will watch this show will be die-hard Harry Potter fans who would watch anything even remotely related to Harry Potter. Amazon recently did a series of Harry Potter baking, where people were making cakes and other stuff based on Harry Potter. I haven't watched the show. It didn't intrigue me in the slightest, but I don't know how successful it is, but I know there will have been a certain section of Harry Potter fans who would have watched it simply on that basis. So there will be people who will watch it for that basis. There will be ones who may very well think that the films came up short. And then I'm sure there'll be ones who have never read the books, never seen the films, and are intrigued to watch the show. And I'm sure there will be some people who will watch because they support Rowling, they support her ideology, and want to support her. And I'm sure there will also be people who will watch it because they believe it will be an absolute car crash and want a front row seat to see how much it slips. Also, I can think of all the people who won't watch it. There'll be those who have absolutely no interest in Harry Potter whatsoever. There will be those who boycott it because of Rowling's views. There will be those who will decide, hey, I've read the books, I've seen the films, I really don't need to see a TV show on it. The point is, because the fan base has been split, there's no guarantee the show will be successful. And that's before it even starts production. Then we get some of the early casting, who I'm not going to go into names. But the early casting, there's already been a heap of backlash because you have an American playing Dumbledore. Now, I will name that one actor because I think John Lithgow is an extraordinary actor, and it's not like he hasn't played English characters before. I'm sure that he will make a phenomenal Dumbledore. I've no doubt about that at all. They've cast a few others. They've cast a black actor whose name I haven't looked it up, but they've cast a black actor as Snape. Now, a lot of people have had a real go on this. Because in their eyes, how can you make a faithful adaptation of the source material when Snape in the source material was white? Firstly, if you think it's going to be a faithful interpretation of the books, it's not going to happen for reason. I don't think it's going to happen for reason I'm going to come on to in a second. But secondly, clearly this actor has shown that he has he's kind of clicked into Snape in a way that has made them go, yeah, him. Not the first person to play a different character. You know, we've had history is awash with people of who have played the same role. You only have to look at playwrights who have put on plays with different casts. Just look at a number of different Shakespeare productions. It's not always the same guy playing Hamlet. The problem is no matter how good the actor is. And I think if just to finish that thought, I think if your objection to casting is based on nationality or ethnicity, go away. Just go away. But the problem for me with the casting isn't something that's going to affect the older actors, because they're not daft. They're coming in with their eyes open. Is they are going to be compared to the film versions. John Lithgow, phenomenal actor. No matter how good he is as Dumbledore, I really do think he'll be a superb Dumbledore. He's going to be compared to Richard Harris. He's going to be compared to Michael Gambon. Heck, he's going to be compared to Jude Law. And there is a certain nostalgia and love for particularly Harris and Gambon's performances, which means John Lithgow has got an uphill battle. The guy playing Snape, Alan Rickman's performance as Severus Snape is widely regarded to be one of the best performances in the entire franchise. I don't care what actor you get in that role. They are going to be compared to Alan Rickman, and that is not a comparison anyone wants to try and take on. But they're adults. They're going to get a hell of a lot of stick when this show comes out, but they're adults. But one thing has changed. It was growing during the films between 2001 and 2011, and has grown even more since, and that is the rise of social media. And also the rise on YouTube of what could best be described as commentators on media generally, who would describe themselves as vehemently anti-woke. Bloody stupid phrase. But anti-woke. Who are probably going to have a go at the Snape casting if they haven't already done so. But the casting that hasn't been announced yet is the casting of the three leads. You know, who's playing Harry, who's playing Hermione, who's playing Ron. Now those kids, and they will be kids, 10, 11 years old, are going to be thrust into the spotlight, probably big fans of the books, wanting to do those iconic roles, and are going to be subjected from a barrage of criticism from people who will compare them automatically unfavorably to Daniel, Emma and Rupert. Those who are going to have a go at them because being negative gets more views than being positive. And between those kids are going to be subjected to the most horrendous online abuse. Now, I reckon the vast majority of people will either be very positive or not say something one or the other. You know, the whole if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything. And I believe the vast majority of them will fall into that category. But I also believe the minority who will go in guns blazing will be a minority for sure, but a very loud, very vocal, very obnoxious, and very vehement minority. And those kids are going to get subjected to that. And it won't matter how good the performance is. I mean, whoever it is playing Harry Potter could be definitive. I mean, it could be a better performance than Daniel gave. Daniel Radcliffe is on record as saying he really can't watch himself in the first film. But for some people, Daniel is Harry, and people will get very entrenched, and those kids are gonna get it in the neck from fan base, and that's not something to subject people to. Which leads me to my own belief. Now, I have no evidence to back this up. I am speculating about the possible reasons for this TV show. And I look at it and I look at everything, and I can only come up with two reasons. Neither of them put this TV show in a positive light, and neither of them could in any way be considered to be artistic merit. The first one is, as I alluded to at the start, the Wizarding World franchise is seen at the moment to be one of diminishing returns for Warner Brothers. Fantastic Beasts apparently was fairly successful for what it was, but it's been diminishing returns. To the point where, as I say, the real possibility of 4 and 5 not going ahead is now very real. This smells of a cynical cash grab by Warner Brothers. Knowing that this franchise is failing, they have two choices. They can either dump it, which I don't think they'll want to do, because the films, I think, are still very successful and still raking them in money in terms of sales and so on, because the original films are very successful. Which again, why are they doing a TV show? But I think they're trying to milk this for all it's worth. I think they've realized that it's not the world so much that people are interested in, it's those central characters. And so this is an attempt, it seems, to cash in on that while they still can, or while they feel they still can. So it feels like a cynical cash grab. I may be wrong about that, but there doesn't seem to be any artistic merit to it. The other one, however, is paints a less flattering light, and that is Rowling. See, Rowling is not losing money over this at all. She's still getting residuals. She's still making a mint out of Harry Potter. But Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson and Rupert Grint have all been very vocal in their disapproval and disagreement over Rowling's views over trans people. Rowling has been equally vocal about her anger and almost how dare they attitude. And I've seen some fans saying, how dare they wouldn't have a career without her. Well, firstly, that may be true. Secondly, they've certainly had a life after the end of Deathly Hallows Part 2. They've went on to their own careers. And thirdly, they owe J.K. Rowling nothing. Nothing. At all. They're no longer involved in the Harry Potter franchise. They haven't been for over a decade. Yes, it was them starring in that franchise that launched their careers. But that they've sustained careers post Harry Potter has been down to their choices and their own talent. And they've all went their own way, really. Harry and Hermione and Ron have all went their own way. And whilst you might say yes, them being in a Harry Potter movies gave them their start, they've always acknowledged that it gave them a start. They've always acknowledged that they're grateful for that start. But Rowling does not own their souls, for want of a better term. She does not own their moral compass. She does not own their thoughts and feelings. She doesn't own that. She never has. She never will. She never should. She doesn't have the right to them. And no one has the right to tell those people how they should feel. You know, I used to work at a bingo hall. I owe that bingo hall nothing. I don't owe them anything. Because I did my time and I no longer work for them. They do not own me. They've never owned me. Nothing. But one cannot help but think with regards to this show, and I'll come back to my other sort of problem with adapting the books in a second, but the other problem I have with this show, and this is regards to Rowling, one cannot help but think that this is petulant spite by Rowling. By greenlighting this show, she can now have a new Harry, a new Hermione, a new Ron to be the face of the franchise. Because at the moment, even though they've not done anything for over a decade, they've been away from this franchise, Daniel Radcliffe is still the face of Harry Potter. Emma Watson is still the face of Hermione Granger. Rupert Grint is still the face of Ron Weasley. And I think she wants to have their faces erased by having a new Harry, a new person to be the face of Harry, a new person to be Hermione, a new person to be Ron, as a sort of vindictive swipe of how dare they, then I will disown them from Harry Potter. And it just comes across as a cynical cash grab by the studio and a bit of just petulant spite by the author. But something I meant to mention earlier, I'll get to it now. You have the problem of the books. They're going to be faithful adaptations. The problem with faithful adaptations is all the problems with the books. And this is where watching other people sort of critique the books and sort of bring out some of the problems. Leaving aside for the moment the fact that there's been more than a couple of people who have stated that they feel that there is a very negative that the goblins are a negative stereotyping of the Jewish community. Not helped with the first film that actually has Gringotts back with a bloody Star of David in the floor. Chris Columbus, not your finest moment. You have the notion of a slave race with the elves, the house elves, to the point where it's considered weird that an elf doesn't want to be free. This is a whole storyline with Hermione wanting to free the house elves. That is completely missing from the films, and I think rightly so, because I think it opens up a Pandora's box of problems that the story can't solve, and the books never solve it. And I think if they put that into the TV show, I think that's going to be very controversial, that there are some beings that deserve slavery, that being a slave is their natural state, because that kind of arguing was being done back during the American slave trade, and it was as wrong then as it is now. So either you keep that in, you keep that storyline in which case that TV show is going to be seen as quite controversial, or you take it out, which I think they will, in which case it's going to be not a faithful adaptation of the books. But then you have the biggest problem that I have with the films, and it's only going back. As I say, I can watch the films, but it's only in going back that you realise that Harry Potter doesn't actually change the world for the better. He's not a hero. None of them are. Harry Potter and everyone only fights to maintain the status quo. It would seem that the point of the books isn't that slavery is bad, it's just, you have to be a good slave owner rather than a bad slave owner, rather than actually standing up and saying, no, you shouldn't be a slave owner at all. In fact, the very notion of someone being a slave owner, not being a slave owner, is sort of ridiculed, going back to Hermione's storyline. Harry Potter doesn't actually change the world for the better. There are some problems of classism. Even the notion of Hogwarts with a sorting hat is quite is quite problematic. The fact that in a moment's notice, a moment's thought, you can a hack can decide your entire future, because ultimately, if you're put in a house like, say, Slytherin, and you're surrounded by people with that sort of darker, sort of twisted viewpoint of life, you're going to end up being influenced by that. It never, the Sorting Hat never really sort of sat well with me. But Harry doesn't change anything. The overall message of the story seems to be, it's a shit world, but it could be a lot worse. But they don't try to make it better. And this is a problem I have. So I don't know what the hell this show is going to do. I think if they make a faithful adaptation, the moment they get to the slavery thing, this show's going to be a dead duck. Because I can't see that argument at all going across well, especially in America. I think the actors, especially the actors, are going to be in for dog's abuse because of rabid fan bases, especially the kids, who are going to be under immense amount of pressure. So soon after the film's finished, I don't see the point in terms of time. It comes across as a cynical cash grab from Warner Brothers, and it comes across as spite from J.K. Rowling to try and erase those actors who have dared to voice an opinion different from hers. And overall, I don't see the point to it. I may be wrong. It might be the biggest bloody success Warner Brothers / HBO have ever seen. It could be the most amazing show. But I won't be watching it. Partially because I'm not that much of a Harry Potter fan to want to watch it. I don't have access to HBO material. I don't have Now TV here in the UK, which has Sky Atlantic, which show all the sort of HBO stuff. So I don't have like Sky or anything. So I don't have access to that. I watched the films. The films were enough. Going back, I've seen there are problems with the very foundation of the storytelling. I personally do not want to put even a penny of my money to Rowling. I do not support her ongoing war against the trans community. As someone who has friends who are trans, and they are amongst some of my dearest and beloved friends, the idea of helping to finance someone who wishes to erase them or denigrate and demean them just does not sit well with me. I see no reason to watch this show. I see no reason for this show's existence. I mean, going back to John Lithgow, um, some people have had a go at him because he's not American. I think someone should perhaps ask him, as someone who famously got an Oscar nomination for playing a trans woman, how does he feel about being in a show whose profits will help fund J.K. Rowling's ongoing vendetta against the trans community? That could be thought. That could be something for someone to ask. But I won't watch the show. I have no interest. If HBO really want to get into a British fantasy author and do some really good adaptations, Terry Pratchett is right there. You could do some fantastic versions of Pratchett's work. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video.